When Keisha Williams saw the stranded biker at the gas station, she had $20 to her name and an empty tank. Most people would have minded their own business, but Keisha wasn't most people. "You don't know me from Adam," the weathered man in the leather jacket had said. "Could be dangerous, offering help to strangers." Keisha smiled, pulling out her last 20. "Everyone deserves help when they're stuck." She had no idea she was talking to Bobby Kowalski, president of the Iron Serpents Motorcycle Club. She couldn't have known that her simple act of kindness, using her grocery money to fill his tank, was about to change everything. What happened next would challenge everything her neighbors believed about bikers, everything her community thought they knew about who deserves help, and everything Keisha thought she understood about the price of doing good. Because sometimes, when you help someone without expecting anything in return, the universe has a way of remembering. Every morning at 5:30 a.m., Keisha Williams's alarm pierced the pre-dawn darkness of her cramped two-bedroom apartment in East Cleveland. The radiator clanked its familiar protest against the October cold. She slipped her feet into worn slippers, careful not to wake 8-year-old Zara, and padded to the kitchen where yesterday's dishes waited in the sink. Her morning coffee was instant, mixed with powdered creamer that was supposed to taste like vanilla, but mostly tasted like hope deferred. On the kitchen counter, bills stared back at her like accusers. Rent due in 3 days, utilities overdue, car insurance that she couldn't drive without, and Zara's school supplies for the Halloween party. The calculator on her phone told the same story it always did. Not enough. Keisha worked the morning shift at Mercy General Hospital, wheeling patients to X-ray and helping nurses with daily care. The work was steady, but barely covered the basics. Her afternoon job cleaning offices downtown paid cash, which helped, but meant she didn't get home until after 8 p.m. most nights. Mrs. Rodriguez next door watched Zara for $20 a week, a kindness that Keisha knew was worth much more. But money wasn't the hardest part anymore. The hardest part was the fear that followed her everywhere since Deshaun started his campaign of psychological warfare. 3 months ago, when she finally got the courage to leave him, she thought the nightmare was over. She was wrong. It had just changed form. It started with phone calls at all hours, dozens of them. Then he began appearing at her workplace, claiming he just wanted to talk. Security would escort him out, but he'd return the next day with flowers and apologies that fooled no one except himself. The restraining order was supposed to stop it, but paper doesn't protect you when someone knows where you live, where you work, where your daughter goes to school. Last week, she'd found him sitting in his car outside Zara's elementary school, just sitting, watching. When she confronted him, he'd smiled that same smile that once made her feel special, but now made her skin crawl. "Public street, Keisha," he'd said. "Can't stop a man from sitting in his car." His friends started helping with the harassment. Marcus would, coincidentally, be at the grocery store when she shopped. Trevor jogged past her apartment building every morning, always looking up at her window. They never touched her, never even spoke to her directly. They just existed everywhere she needed to be. The police were sympathetic but clear. Until Deshaun actually violated the restraining order, their hands were tied. Following someone on public streets wasn't illegal. Sitting outside a school wasn't illegal. Making someone feel like prey in their own life apparently fell into a legal gray area that offered no protection. "You need to be more careful," her co-worker Denise had said. "Maybe stay with family for a while?" But Keisha had no family left. Her grandmother, who'd raised her, passed away 2 years ago. The foster system hadn't exactly built a network of supportive relatives. It was just her and Zara against the world. "Why can't Daddy just leave us alone?" Zara had asked one night, her 8-year-old voice small and confused. Keisha had held her daughter close, feeling the weight of inadequacy. "Some people have trouble letting go, baby, but we're strong, remember? We'll figure it out." In her community, there was constant pressure about self-reliance. "A strong black woman doesn't need anyone," the older women at church would say. "You handle your own problems." But what happened when your own strength wasn't enough? What happened when the system designed to protect you treated your terror like paperwork? Keisha lay awake most nights, listening for footsteps in the hallway, for her car alarm, for anything that might signal escalation. She'd installed new locks, bought pepper spray, and researched self-defense classes she couldn't afford. The worst part was watching it affect Zara. Her bright, chatty daughter had started asking why Mommy looked so tired, why they always had to check the parking lot before leaving, why they couldn't go to the park after dark anymore. Children sense fear even when you think you're hiding it well. This morning, as Keisha got ready for another day of looking over her shoulder, she caught her reflection in the bathroom mirror. The woman looking back seemed smaller than she remembered, more brittle. Dark circles ringed her eyes, but her gaze still held determination. She touched the small cross necklace her grandmother had given her, the only thing of value she owned, worn every day for protection and memory. Grandma Moses had always said, "Baby, we help because we can, not because we should, and we don't judge folks by what they look like on the outside." Those words felt especially important in their neighborhood, where assumptions came quick and forgiveness came slow. People looked at the bikers who sometimes passed through and saw trouble. They looked at the young men on street corners and saw criminals. Everyone had their own ideas about who deserved help and who deserved suspicion. As she braided Zara's hair and packed her lunch, Keisha made the same promise she made every morning. Somehow, some way, she'd build a better life for them both. She'd survived growing up in foster care, survived teenage pregnancy when everyone said she'd never amount to anything, survived putting herself through nursing assistant training while raising a baby alone. She could survive Deshaun, too. She just needed to stay strong long enough to figure out how. But what Keisha didn't know was that sometimes the help we need comes from the most unexpected places, and sometimes accepting that help requires more courage than facing our problems alone. By 3 p.m., Keisha's 12-hour day was finally winding down. The October sky threatened rain as she pulled her 2008 Honda Civic into the Get-Go station on Euclid Avenue. The car made that grinding noise again, another problem for the ever-growing list. She checked her phone. 3:15 p.m. If she hurried, she could grab gas and still make it to pick up Zara by 3:45. At pump 6, Keisha slid her credit card through the reader. The machine beeped its rejection. Declined. Her stomach dropped as she tried her debit card. Also declined. She fumbled for her banking app. The automatic car insurance payment had gone through that morning, leaving her account $12 overdrawn. Her next paycheck wasn't until Friday. 3 days away. Standing there with cars lining up behind her, Keisha felt the familiar heat of embarrassment creeping up her neck. Someone honked. The dashboard showed less than a quarter tank, maybe 30 miles worth, 30 miles that had to last until Friday. That's when she noticed the man at pump 7. He was maybe 50, wearing a worn leather jacket despite the unseasonable warmth. His motorcycle, a massive Harley-Davidson, gleamed even under the overcast sky. Salt and pepper beard, weathered hands, and something about his posture that suggested both power and weariness. He'd been trying to start his bike for several minutes. Even from her pump, she could hear it wasn't turning over. The distinctive patch on his jacket caught her eye. A skull with wings, surrounded by text she couldn't quite read. In their neighborhood, everyone knew to be wary of bikers. They meant trouble, drugs, violence. At least that's what people said. But watching this man's frustration, Keisha saw something different. She saw someone having the same kind of day she was having. The man pulled out his phone, clearly agitated. She heard fragments. 20 miles from nowhere and send a truck. But then his phone died mid-sentence. He stared at the black screen, then at his bike, then up at the darkening sky. The first drops of rain began to fall. Keisha should mind her own business. She had her own problems. Bigger problems than a stranded biker. Plus, every voice in her community echoed the same warning. Stay away from those people. But her grandmother's voice was louder. Baby, we help because we can, not because we should. She approached carefully, aware of how this might look. Excuse me? You okay? Up close, she noticed more details. His jacket was expensive, real leather. His boots were well-maintained. The bike itself was pristine, clearly well cared for. But his expression was genuinely worried, not threatening. Battery's dead, he said, his voice carrying a slight rasp. Phone, too. Was supposed to meet my group an hour ago. He paused, studying her face. They'll be worried. The way he said group carried weight, like it meant more than just friends meeting for coffee. There was responsibility in his voice, authority. I could give you a jump, Keisha offered. then realized the obvious problem. Oh, wait! Cars don't really work on motorcycles, do they? Despite his frustration, he almost smiled. Not so much, no, but I appreciate the thought. He extended a weathered hand. Name's Bobby. Keisha. His handshake was firm but respectful. There's an auto parts store about 2 miles down Euclid. They might have a battery charger you could borrow. Bobby shook his head. No car, remember? The rain intensified, drumming against the gas station's canopy. Other customers hurried inside for shelter. Bobby looked up at the sky, then back at his dead phone, then at his bike. She could practically see him calculating options and coming up short. Every practical voice in Keisha's head screamed warnings. Don't get involved. You don't know this man. He's a biker. They're all trouble. What would Deshaun say if he found out? What would the neighbors think? But louder than all those voices was a simple truth. Someone needed help, and she could provide it. Look, she said, surprising herself. I could drive you. To the auto parts store, I mean, or wherever you need to call for help. Bobby studied her for a long moment, rain beginning to spot his leather jacket. You don't know me from Adam, he said carefully. Could be dangerous offering rides to strangers. Could be, she agreed, rain starting to dampen her scrubs. But you seem more frustrated than dangerous, and everyone deserves help when they're stuck. The rain came harder now, forcing them both to speak louder. Bobby looked at his bike, clearly reluctant to leave it unattended. It'll be fine here, Keisha said, reading his hesitation. I'll pull my car up and we can get you sorted out. Why? He asked simply, his eyes searching her face. Keisha thought about her morning, about Deshaun, about feeling powerless and alone. Because someone helped me once when I needed it. Seemed like the right thing to pass it on. Bobby nodded slowly, something shifting in his expression. Surprise, maybe even respect. All right, Keisha, I accept your kindness, but let me at least put gas in your car first. Oh, you don't have to. I insist. He was already walking toward her pump, pulling out a substantial wallet. Least I can do. And that's how Keisha Williams, with $20 to her name, found herself about to receive help from the very person she was trying to help. Bobby pumped $43 of premium gas into Keisha's Honda, more than she'd put in at once in months. The numbers climbed on the display, and Keisha felt a mix of gratitude and embarrassment. When the pump clicked off, her tank was completely full for the first time since summer. Thank you, she said quietly. You really didn't need to. Yes, I did. His tone was final, but not unkind. Now, about that ride. As they loaded into her car, Keisha became hyper-aware of the other customers at the gas station. An elderly woman pumping gas 2 spots over kept glancing their way, her eyebrows raised. A teenager getting snacks shot them curious looks through the convenience store window. In their neighborhood, a black woman talking to a white biker was the kind of thing people noticed and remembered. The auto parts store, O'Reilly's, sat in a strip mall between a Chinese restaurant and a laundromat. Bobby directed her there with the confidence of someone familiar with the area. The rain drummed steadily against the windshield. Been in Cleveland long? Keisha asked as they drove. Off and on for about 15 years. You? Born here? Never left? She signaled into the parking lot. Sometimes I wonder what that says about me. Bobby looked at her profile as she parked. Say you know the value of home. Inside O'Reilly's, the teenager behind the counter recognized Bobby immediately. Hey, Mr. Bobby, haven't seen you in a while. Hey, Danny, listen, my bike's dead over at Get-Go. You still got that portable jump starter in the back? Sure do, but... Danny glanced at the clock. I can't leave until 6, and Marcus doesn't get in until then. Bobby's jaw tightened slightly. Keisha could see him calculating time, distance, obligations. Whatever meeting he was missing, it mattered. People were counting on him. I could take you back, she offered. With the jump starter, I mean. That's asking a lot, Bobby said. You've already done more than... It's 20 minutes round trip. My daughter doesn't get out of after-school care until 5. She checked her phone. 4:10 p.m. I've got time. Danny handed over the portable charger, a heavy black case with jumper cables. Just bring it back whenever, Mr. Bobby. The way Danny spoke to Bobby carried unusual respect for someone his age talking to a customer. Not fear, but genuine regard. Like Bobby had earned something more than casual politeness. As they loaded the equipment into Keisha's car, she noticed more details. Bobby moved with purpose, checking the charger's connections with practiced efficiency. His hands bore old scars, and there was a stiffness to his movements that suggested old injuries. "I'm going to ask you something," Bobby said as they drove back, "and I want an honest answer." Keisha's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Okay. Why are you helping me? Real reason." The question caught her off guard. She thought about the easy answers, the right answers, about kindness and paying it forward. But something in Bobby's tone suggested he'd see through superficial explanations. "Because," she said slowly, "I know what it feels like when everything goes wrong at once, and I know what it feels like when someone helps anyway." Bobby nodded. "Fair enough." The drive back took them through a part of Cleveland that mixed struggle with hope. Boarded storefronts stood next to bright new businesses. Kids played in courtyards between apartment buildings despite the rain. "You said you work at the hospital?" Bobby asked. "Mercy General. Patient transport mostly." She stopped at a red light. "Not glamorous, but it's honest work. Honest work's getting rare." Back at Get-Go, Bobby's bike sat exactly where he'd left it, rain beating on its chrome surfaces. But now Keisha noticed other details. The way the bike was positioned perfectly between the lines, the care taken with every visible component. This wasn't transportation, it was pride. Bobby worked quickly, connecting the portable charger with the efficiency of someone who'd done this many times. While they waited for it to charge, he made conversation that felt natural despite their different backgrounds. "Your daughter," he said. "What's she like?" Keisha's face brightened immediately. "Zara. 8 years old, smarter than me, and an attitude bigger than she is. I want to be a veterinarian this week. Last week, I was an astronaut." "Good kid. The best kid." Pride and worry competed in her voice. "Sometimes I think she's too good for this world." Bobby caught something in her tone. "Trouble?" Keisha hesitated. She didn't usually share personal problems with strangers, but something about Bobby invited honesty. Maybe it was his complete lack of judgment or the way he asked questions like someone who genuinely wanted to know the answers. "Her father," she said finally. "We split up a few months ago. He's having trouble accepting that." "Trouble? How?" "The kind that makes you check your locks twice and worry about coincidences?" Bobby's expression hardened almost imperceptibly. "Is he threatening you?" "Not directly, but he's everywhere I am. Him and his friends, just present, you know?" "I know." The way Bobby said it suggested he knew better than most. "Police involved?" "Restraining order, but that's just paper." The portable charger beeped, indicating readiness. Bobby disconnected it efficiently, then tried the bike's ignition. It turned over immediately, the engine rumbling to life with a satisfied growl that echoed off the gas station's canopy. "Beautiful sound," Keisha said, having to speak louder over the engine. Bobby revved it once, listening to something she couldn't hear, then nodded approvingly. He turned off the engine and began loading the jump starter back into her car. "I owe you," he said simply. "You filled my tank. We're even." "No," Bobby said. "We're not." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. Not paper, actual cardstock, heavy and expensive looking. "If you ever need anything, and I mean anything, you call this number." Keisha took the card. It was simple. A phone number, the name Bobby Kowalski, and the same skull and wings logo from his jacket patch. But now she could read the text around it. "Iron Serpents MC, Cleveland Chapter President." "MC?" she asked. "Motorcycle Club." Bobby was watching her face carefully, waiting for recognition or fear or judgment. "And you're the president?" "I am." Keisha looked at the card, then at Bobby, then at his bike. The pieces formed a picture she hadn't expected. Iron Serpents. In Cleveland, that name carried weight. Some said good, some said bad, most said complicated. "We're not what people think," Bobby said quietly. "Most of us aren't anyway, but we take care of our own, and we take care of people who take care of us." He started his bike again, the rumble echoing off the gas station's walls. "I meant what I said about that number, Keisha. Day or night. I couldn't ask." "You're not asking. I'm offering." Bobby put on his helmet but kept the visor up. "Sometimes the help we need comes from unexpected places." As he rode away, Keisha stood in the gas station parking lot, rain speckling her face, holding a business card that felt heavier than it should. She didn't yet understand what had just happened, but she had the distinct feeling that her life had just shifted in some fundamental way. And somewhere across town, Bobby Kowalski was making phone calls, telling his brothers about a woman who'd helped a stranger without expecting anything in return. In the Iron Serpents, that kind of character meant something. That kind of person earned protection. But Keisha didn't know that yet. All she knew was that sometimes, when you do the right thing, the universe takes notice. The drive to Zara's after-school program passed in a strange haze. Keisha kept glancing at Bobby's business card on her passenger seat, trying to process the last hour. Iron Serpents MC, president. She'd helped the president of a motorcycle club. In Cleveland, that could mean any number of things, most of them she'd rather not think about. But Bobby hadn't seemed dangerous. Frustrated, yes. Worried about his group, absolutely. But dangerous? The man who'd politely thanked the teenage cashier and asked genuine questions about her daughter? Zara bounced into the car full of 8-year-old energy. "Mommy, guess what happened in art class today? Mrs. Patterson let us use the good markers." "That sounds amazing, baby." Keisha forced herself to focus on Zara's chatter, pushing thoughts of motorcycle clubs to the back of her mind. At home, Zara spread homework across the kitchen table while Keisha started dinner. Spaghetti again, cheap, filling, and Zara didn't complain. As she boiled water, Keisha's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Bobby. Just wanted to make sure you got home safe. Thank you again for today. BK." Keisha stared at the message. When had she given him her number? Then she remembered. He'd asked for it at O'Reilly's, in case something happened to the jump starter. She typed back, "Home safe. Thank you for the gas. Take care." His response came immediately. "Keep that card handy. I meant what I said." "Mommy, who are you texting?" Zara asked without looking up from her math worksheet. "Just someone I helped today, baby." "Was it a good deed?" Keisha smiled. Zara's teacher had been talking about good deeds. "I think so. What do you think makes something a good deed?" "Helping someone without wanting anything back," Zara said confidently. "And doing it even when it's hard. That's exactly right." At work the next morning, her coworker Denise noticed her checking her phone more than usual. "You seem distracted," Denise said as they wheeled a patient to radiology. "Everything okay?" "Just had an interesting day yesterday." During lunch break, Keisha found herself Googling Iron Serpents MC Cleveland. The results were mixed and confusing. Some articles mentioned charity rides and community service. Others hinted at more complicated activities. The club's website showed group photos of men and women in leather, charity events, and a mission statement about brotherhood, loyalty, and community service. Bobby appeared in several photos, always positioned centrally, clearly the leader. Her phone rang. Unknown local number. "Keisha, this is Bobby. Hi." She stepped outside the hospital for privacy. "Everything okay?" "That's what I called to ask you. Had any more trouble with your situation?" The question caught her off guard. "How did you—" "Because people who help strangers usually have good reasons, and people with good reasons usually have good instincts about trouble." His voice carried calm authority. "So I'm asking, any new trouble?" Keisha looked around the parking lot, suddenly hyper-aware. "Maybe. There were cigarette butts outside my apartment this morning. Fresh ones. Deshawn doesn't smoke." Silence, then. "That's escalation." "Yeah." "You still have my card?" "In my wallet." "Good. Listen, Keisha. I'm going to give you another number. Different phone, different purpose." He rattled off digits. "You call this one if things get worse, day or night." "Bobby, I can't ask you to—" "You're not asking. I'm offering. There's a difference." His voice was gentle but firm. "Sometimes people need help, and sometimes other people are in a position to provide it." That evening, as Keisha tucked Zara into bed, her daughter asked, "Mommy, are you scared of something?" The question pierced through all her attempts to shield Zara from the fear. "Why do you ask, baby?" "You keep looking out the window, and you check the door a lot." Keisha sat on the edge of Zara's bed. "Sometimes grown-ups have to be extra careful. But you don't need to worry about that, okay? Is someone trying to hurt us?" "I don't know, baby, but I'm making sure we stay safe." "Like Batman keeps Gotham safe?" Despite everything, Keisha smiled. "Something like that." Later, alone in her kitchen, Keisha pulled out Bobby's business card again. She'd programmed both numbers into her phone, though she prayed she'd never need the second one. But as she double-checked the locks, She felt something she hadn't felt in months, like maybe she wasn't completely alone in this fight. The next morning started like any other until Keisha stepped outside her apartment building at 6:47 a.m. Fresh cigarette butts scattered below her window. Still warm, the acrid smell of tobacco hung in the morning air. Deshawn didn't smoke, never had. Her hands shook as she called the police, adding another incident to the growing file. Officer Martinez was sympathetic but realistic. Unless you saw someone smoking them, Miss Williams, it's not technically evidence of harassment. At work, paranoia crept in like slow poison. Every unfamiliar face in the hospital corridors made her heart race. During lunch break, she researched motorcycle clubs more thoroughly, trying to understand what she'd gotten herself into. The Iron Serpents had chapters in 6 states. Bobby Kowalski's name appeared in several news articles, most surprisingly positive. One Cleveland Plain dealer story caught her attention. Local MC president mediates neighborhood dispute. The article detailed how Bobby helped resolve a conflict between residents and a slumlord illegally evicting tenants. The landlord backed down after community pressure organized by the Iron Serpents. But it was Bobby's background that made her pause. 20 years in the Army, 3 tours overseas, extensive training in conflict resolution and community organization. This wasn't just any biker. This was someone with serious skills. Her supervisor, Janet, called her into the office mid-afternoon. Keisha, I need to ask you something. There have been some reports about unusual associations. Ice formed in Keisha's stomach. Okay. About you being seen with members of a motorcycle club. Look, I don't want to pry into your personal life, but if there's anything I should know... Keisha felt the walls closing in. Even her workplace wasn't safe from judgment. I helped someone whose motorcycle broke down, that's all. I'm sure that's all it was, just be careful, okay? Sometimes helping the wrong people can create complications we don't expect. That evening, Mrs. Rodriguez pulled her aside. The older woman's usual warm smile was replaced by worried lines. Honey, I've been thinking about that man you helped. People are talking, and not good talk. What kind of talk? The kind that says maybe you're getting mixed up with the wrong crowd. The kind that wonders what a nice girl like you is doing with bikers. Mrs. Rodriguez touched Keisha's arm gently. I'm not judging, baby, but those people, they're not like us. They bring trouble. At home, Keisha stared at Bobby's business card again. The simple cardstock suddenly felt heavy with implications she hadn't considered. Had she made a terrible mistake? Was her attempt to do good about destroying the carefully built stability of her small world? Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Saw you talking to some biker yesterday, making new friends? Better hope he's tougher than your restraining order. D. Deshawn. He'd been watching. Had seen her with Bobby. The implication was clear. He was escalating, getting bolder. But what Deshawn didn't know was that his text had just made a very dangerous mistake. At 11:47 p.m. that night, Keisha learned that sometimes the most terrifying moments of your life happen in complete silence, and sometimes the cavalry arrives wearing leather jackets. She jolted awake to the sound of breaking glass. Not loud, careful, deliberate, someone trying not to wake the neighbors but wanting to wake her. Through her bedroom window, she could see her car in the parking lot below. The passenger side window was spider-webbed with cracks, and someone was leaning against the hood. Deshawn. He wasn't alone. Marcus stood near the building entrance like a sentry. Trevor paced between the cars, clearly visible in the parking lot lights. All of them knew she could see them. This was psychological warfare elevated to the next level. Keisha's hands shook as she dialed 911. The dispatcher was professional but realistic. Officers are responding, ma'am, but it may be 15 to 20 minutes. Are they attempting to enter your building? Not yet. If they breach your door or threaten immediate harm, call back immediately. 15 to 20 minutes. Through the blinds, Keisha watched Deshawn move closer to the building. He was holding something, her spare key, the one she thought she'd hidden well enough. They weren't going to wait outside. Keisha's finger hovered over Bobby's regular number, then remembered the second number, the different purpose number. She dialed it with trembling fingers. Bobby answered on the first ring. Yeah. Bobby, it's Keisha. They're here, outside my building. They broke my car window and... Address. What? Your address, right now. 1247 Cedar, apartment 3B, but... Stay inside. Lock your bedroom door. Do not open it for anyone except the police or me. How many? 3. Maybe more. Armed? I can't tell from here. 15 minutes. Can you hold it for 15 minutes? Keisha's voice cracked. I don't know. You can. Bobby's voice carried absolute certainty. Lock that bedroom door now. The line went dead. Keisha stared at her phone, then rushed to lock her bedroom door. She checked on Zara, still sleeping, thank God, then returned to the window. Deshawn was no longer in the parking lot. The building's front door buzzer rang once, twice, then stopped. Silence. Then she heard it. Footsteps in the hallway outside her apartment, slow, deliberate. Her apartment door handle rattled. Once, twice. Testing. Keisha pressed herself against the wall beside her bedroom door, phone clutched in her hand. Zara stirred but didn't wake. Outside the apartment, she heard whispered voices. Told you she was here? Just want to talk. Make her understand. The voices moved away, then returned. They were discussing something, planning something. Then, silence. Keisha waited 5 minutes. 10. No sounds from the hallway. Maybe they left. Maybe the police scared them off. Maybe... Her bedroom window exploded inward. Marcus tumbled through, glass cascading around him. He'd climbed the fire escape, broken her third-floor window. Blood streamed from cuts on his hands and face, but he was grinning. Hey, Keisha, miss us? Zara woke up screaming. Keisha grabbed her daughter, pulling her behind the bed as Marcus unlocked the bedroom door from the inside. Deshawn and Trevor entered through the front door. They must have picked the lock while Marcus provided distraction. Now, Deshawn said calmly, stepping into the bedroom. We can finally have that conversation. Keisha clutched Zara, mind racing. The window was broken, glass everywhere, the door was blocked. Her phone showed no signal, one of them must have a jammer. Mommy, Zara whispered, I'm scared. It's okay, baby. It's going to be okay. Deshawn laughed. Is it, though? See, Keisha, you've been making some interesting friends lately. Biker friends. Makes me wonder what kind of example you're setting for our daughter. She's not your daughter. Courts might see it differently, especially when they hear about your new associations. From outside, the sound of motorcycles. Not one or two, many. The rumble grew louder, closer, until it sounded like thunder rolling through the parking lot. Deshawn frowned, moving to the broken window. What the hell? The motorcycles fell silent all at once. Car doors slammed, heavy footsteps on pavement, on stairs, in hallways. A new voice called from outside the apartment. Cleveland police, building surrounded. But that wasn't the voice that made Deshawn's face go white. Deshawn Williams! Bobby's voice carried clearly through the broken window, amplified by some kind of speaker system. You and your boys have 30 seconds to walk out of that building with your hands visible. Who the hell? Trevor started. Iron serpents, Marcus whispered, and suddenly all 3 men looked terrified. Bobby's voice continued. Miss Williams, this is Bobby Kowalski, Iron Serpents MC. The building is secure. Police are here. You and your daughter are safe. Deshawn's bravado evaporated completely. Iron Serpents? The Iron Serpents? Through the broken window, Keisha could see the parking lot. It was full of motorcycles, dozens of them, arranged in perfect formation. Men and women in leather jackets stood beside them like soldiers. Police cars ringed the perimeter, but the officers were clearly coordinating with, not confronting, the bikers. This wasn't some outlaw gang causing trouble. This was an organized, legitimate operation working hand in hand with law enforcement. Bobby appeared in the doorway, flanked by 2 massive men wearing patches that read Sergeant at Arms. He was no longer the stranded motorcyclist from yesterday. His presence filled the room with quiet, absolute authority. But it was what he wore that changed everything Keisha thought she knew. A tactical vest, official patches, and a badge that caught the light as he moved. Gentlemen, Bobby said politely to Deshawn and his friends, I believe you were leaving. Deshawn looked at Marcus, at Trevor, at the broken window, at Bobby. Whatever he saw in Bobby's face made his decision for him. This isn't over, he told Keisha. Bobby stepped aside to let them pass, then said quietly, Actually, it is. As police led Deshawn and his friends away in handcuffs, Bobby knelt beside Keisha and Zara. Up close, Keisha could see details she'd missed yesterday. Not just the scars on his hands, but the way he moved with practiced efficiency, the radio clipped to his vest. How? Keisha asked. Bobby smiled. Iron Serpent's MC operates a community protection service. We have contracts with the city for neighborhood security and domestic violence intervention. Yesterday, when you helped me, you helped someone whose job it is to help people exactly like you. He showed her his identification. Robert Kowalski, Director of Community Safety, Iron Serpent Security Solutions, licensed, bonded, and working directly with Cleveland PD. You're not just a biker, Keisha whispered. I'm a biker who runs a legitimate security company, Bobby corrected gently. We take care of people who take care of us, and we don't forget kindness. The emergency glazier arrived at 2 a.m., replacing Keisha's bedroom window while she and Zara waited in the living room. Zara had finally fallen back asleep, curled against her mother on the couch. The apartment felt different now, violated but also somehow safer than it had been in months. Bobby sat across from them, having sent the rest of his team home once police confirmed Deshaun and his friends were in custody. He looked tired but alert, periodically checking his phone for updates. They're being charged with breaking and entering, criminal trespassing, violation of a restraining order, and destruction of property, he reported after hanging up with someone at the police station. The jammer Trevor had bumped it up to interfere with emergency communications. They're not getting out tonight. What about tomorrow? Next week? Keisha kept her voice low to avoid waking Zara. That's what we need to talk about. Officer Martinez arrived as the glazier finished. She was the same cop who'd been documenting Keisha's complaints for months, but tonight her demeanor was different. Less sympathetic patience, more decisive action. Miss Williams, I owe you an apology, she said directly. We should have taken this more seriously earlier. Tonight's incident gives us enough to push for serious charges. Will it stick? With Mr. Kowalski's organization providing witness statements and security footage? Yes, it'll stick. Security footage? Keisha looked at Bobby questioningly. We've been monitoring your building since yesterday, Bobby explained. Standard protocol when we identify a potential domestic violence situation. Everything tonight was recorded. Officer Martinez nodded. Iron Serpent Security Solutions has been working with our domestic violence unit for 2 years. They've helped us build cases that stick when traditional evidence falls short. After Martinez left, Bobby turned to Keisha with a serious expression. I need to ask you something, and I want you to think carefully before you answer. Keisha adjusted Zara in her arms. Okay. How would you feel about Deshaun never being able to surprise you again, about knowing exactly where he is, what he's doing, and having immediate backup if he violates the terms of his eventual release? That sounds like a fantasy. It's not. Bobby pulled out a tablet showing her a professional presentation. Iron Serpent's Security Solutions offers comprehensive protection packages for domestic violence survivors. We work with the courts, with victim services, with law enforcement. It's all above board, all legal, and it works. The presentation showed statistics, testimonials, official partnerships with city agencies. This wasn't some vigilante operation. This was a legitimate business with real infrastructure. I don't understand. How is this possible? Bobby smiled. 20 years ago, I came back from my 3rd deployment with PTSD, anger issues, and no idea how to fit into civilian life. A lot of my brothers had the same problem. We formed the Iron Serpents as a way to channel what we'd learned in the military into something positive. He swiped to the next slide, showing organizational charts and licensing documentation. We're not just bikers, Keisha. We're combat veterans, former police officers, licensed security professionals, and trained social workers. We happen to ride motorcycles, but that's not what defines our work. And you help people like me? We help people exactly like you. Single mothers who've been failed by systems that should protect them. People who need more than what traditional law enforcement can provide. The next morning brought a harsh reality check. Keisha's supervisor, Janet, called her into the office before her shift started. Keisha, I need to talk to you about last night. What about it? The police report mentions your association with a motorcycle club. The hospital board is concerned about potential liability issues. Keisha felt her stomach drop. Liability issues? If you're involved with those kinds of people, it could reflect poorly on the hospital. We serve families, children. We can't afford to have our employees associated with... With what? People who saved my life last night? Janet looked uncomfortable. Look, I don't want to make this difficult. But you need to understand that some associations create problems. If this motorcycle thing continues, we might have to reconsider your employment. The threat was clear. Choose between safety and her job. That afternoon, Mrs. Rodriguez knocked on Keisha's door. Her usual warmth was replaced by worried concern. Honey, people are talking. About last night, about those motorcycles. Some folks are saying maybe you brought this trouble on yourself. Brought it on myself? By getting mixed up with those people. Maybe if you hadn't helped that man, none of this would have happened. Mrs. Rodriguez touched Keisha's arm gently. I'm not saying I agree, baby. But you need to know what people are thinking. The isolation was beginning. The price of accepting help from people society labeled as dangerous. Bobby called that evening. How are you holding up? Honestly? I'm starting to understand why people don't call for help. Keisha sat at her kitchen table, surrounded by bills. My supervisor basically threatened to fire me. My neighbors think I brought this on myself. Maybe accepting your help was a mistake. Maybe it was, Bobby said quietly. But let me offer you an alternative. What kind of alternative? A job, working with us, community liaison, victim advocacy, case coordination, $48,000 a year, full benefits, and the chance to help other women in situations like yours. Keisha's breath caught. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you a career. The hospital sees your association with us as a liability. We see your experience as an asset. You understand what our clients are going through because you've been there. I don't have the right education. You have the right heart. We can provide the training. Bobby's voice was steady, confident. Think about it, Keisha. Instead of being ashamed of getting help, you could be helping other people get the same support. And Zara, full scholarship to any school she wants. Our foundation has partnerships with private academies throughout Cleveland. She'd get opportunities you could never afford on a hospital salary. That night, Keisha sat in her newly repaired bedroom, looking out at a parking lot that no longer felt threatening. Zara slept peacefully beside her. The business card on her nightstand no longer felt heavy with implications. It felt like a possibility. Tomorrow, she will give Bobby her answer. But tonight, for the first time in months, she felt like she had a real choice to make. 6 months later, Keisha Williams walked into the same get-go station where everything had started. But this time, she wasn't counting dollars or checking her account balance. She was wearing a professional blazer with the Iron Serpent's Security Solutions logo, carrying herself with the confidence of someone who knew exactly what she was capable of. The teenage cashier, Danny, recognized her immediately. Hey, Miss Williams, how's the new job treating you? Better than I ever imagined, Danny. As the Community Liaison Coordinator for Iron Serpent Security Solutions, Keisha had found her calling. She worked with domestic violence survivors, helping them navigate the complex system of legal protection, counseling services, and safety planning. Her own experience gave her credibility that no textbook could provide. The transformation had been remarkable, but it hadn't been easy. The first month was the hardest. Keisha had to learn an entirely new vocabulary, risk assessment protocols, threat level classifications, emergency response procedures. But more than that, she had to unlearn years of thinking small. Bobby had been patient, but demanding. You're not just representing yourself anymore, he'd told her during training. Every family we help sees you as proof that this works. You're carrying hope for people who've forgotten what hope looks like. Zara's transformation had been even more dramatic. The private academy scholarship had placed her in advanced classes with resources Keisha had never dreamed possible. Last week, Zara had come home excited about a robotics competition. Mommy, did you know that some people get to design things that help save lives? Zara had asked over dinner. I think I want to do that. The ripple effects extended far beyond their personal success. Iron Serpent Security Solutions had expanded their domestic violence intervention program, hiring 2 more victim advocates and partnering with 3 additional community organizations. The success rate for keeping families safe had increased by 60%. But perhaps the most significant change was happening in the community itself. Mrs. Rodriguez had been one of the first to come around. 3 months ago, when her own niece faced a stalking situation, she'd quietly asked Keisha for help. The Iron Serpents had responded immediately, and the niece was now safe. I was wrong about those people, Mrs. Rodriguez had admitted. I let my fear make decisions for me instead of looking at what they actually do. The hospital had been slower to change their perspective. It took 2 successful interventions, one involving a nurse being stalked by an ex-patient, another helping a doctor's teenage daughter escape an abusive relationship. Before the administration recognized the value of having someone on staff with Iron Serpent's connections. Janet, Keisha's former supervisor, had actually approached her last month about developing a formal partnership between the hospital and Iron Serpents for employee safety issues. "We were short-sighted," Janet had said. "We saw the leather jackets and made assumptions. We should have looked at the results." The news media had taken notice, too. Channel 19 had run a feature story titled "Unlikely Heroes: How Bikers Are Changing Community Safety." The segment highlighted Iron Serpent's success in domestic violence intervention and their partnerships with local law enforcement. Bobby appeared in several interviews, articulate and professional. "People see the motorcycles and think we're trouble," he'd said to the reporter. "But most of us learned how to protect people in the military. This is just us continuing that mission in civilian life." The feature had generated dozens of calls from other communities wanting to replicate the program. Iron Serpents was now consulting with groups in Detroit, Pittsburgh, and Atlanta. For Keisha, the most rewarding moment came during a community safety forum at Zara's school. She was there representing Iron Serpents, explaining their family protection services to other parents. A young mother raised her hand. "My husband, he's been following me, taking pictures. The police say they can't do anything until he actually hurts me. What can you do that they can't?" Keisha recognized the desperation in the woman's voice, the same desperation she'd felt 6 months ago. "We can make sure you're never alone," she said. "We can document everything he does, provide witnesses the courts will believe, and give you backup when you need it most. Most importantly, we can help you believe that you deserve to be safe." After the forum, the woman approached Keisha privately. "6 months ago, I would never have trusted bikers to help me. But seeing you up there, hearing your story, it gives me hope." That evening, as Keisha picked up Zara from the robotics club, she reflected on how completely their world had changed. They'd moved to a safer neighborhood. Zara was thriving. Keisha had work that felt meaningful rather than just necessary. But the most important change was internal. They no longer lived in fear. They lived with purpose. As they drove home, Zara asked, "Mommy, do you think the man you helped that day knew he was going to change our whole life?" Keisha smiled, remembering Bobby stranded at that gas pump. "I think he hoped so, baby. I think good people always hope their kindness will make a difference." 1 year later, on a cold October afternoon, Keisha stood at Pump 6 of the same Get-Go station, watching a young woman struggle with a declined card. The woman, maybe 25, wearing scrubs that had seen better days, stared at the pump display with the same expression of quiet desperation Keisha remembered all too well. In the car behind her, a toddler was crying. The woman's hands shook as she tried a different card, also declined. Keisha didn't hesitate. "Excuse me," she said, approaching gently. "Having trouble?" The woman looked up, embarrassed. "I'm sorry, I'll move. I thought I had enough. What's your name?" "Maria." "Maria, I'm Keisha, and you don't need to move anywhere." Keisha pulled out her own card. "Let me help." "Oh no, I couldn't." "How much do you need?" Maria's eyes filled with tears. $20 would get me home and to work tomorrow, but I can't accept charity from a stranger." "It's not charity," Keisha said, already inserting her card into the pump. "It's kind. And sometimes kindness comes back in ways you never expect." As the pump clicked to life, Maria asked, "Why would you help someone you don't know?" "Because someone helped me once when I needed it most," Keisha said, thinking of Bobby stranded at Pump 7 exactly 1 year ago. "Changed my whole life." While the tank filled, Keisha learned that Maria was a single mother, working as a medical assistant while studying nursing at night. Her ex-boyfriend had been causing problems, following her, showing up at work, making threats. "The police say they can't do anything until he actually hurts me or my son," Maria said. Keisha reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. Professional cardstock, embossed logo just like the one Bobby had given her. But this one read, "Keisha Williams, Community Safety Coordinator, Iron Serpent Security Solutions. If you ever need help, real help, call this number," Keisha said. "Day or night." Maria studied the card. "Iron Serpents? The motorcycle club? The security company?" Keisha corrected gently. "We help people in situations exactly like yours, and we don't forget kindness." From across the parking lot, the familiar rumble of a Harley-Davidson approached. Bobby pulled up to Pump 7, the same pump where his bike had broken down a year ago. He was returning from a client meeting, wearing his tactical vest and iron serpent's patches. He caught Keisha's eye and smiled, understanding immediately what was happening. "That's my boss," Keisha told Maria. "The man I helped a year ago. It turned out he was exactly the person I needed most." Maria looked at the card, then at Bobby, then back at Keisha. "You really think things can change?" "I know they can," Keisha said. "But you have to be brave enough to accept help when it comes." As Maria drove away with a full tank and new hope, Bobby approached Keisha. "Paying it forward?" he asked. "Always," Keisha replied. "That's how this works, right?" Bobby nodded, looking proud. "That's exactly how this works." In her car, Zara looked up from her robotics homework. "Another good deed, Mommy? Another good deed, baby. The circle keeps growing." And somewhere across Cleveland, Maria was programming Keisha's number into her phone, not knowing that her life was about to change in ways she couldn't imagine. Because kindness has a way of multiplying, especially when it's given without expecting anything in return. Keisha's story proves something powerful. The smallest act of kindness can create the biggest changes. $20 of gas became a new career, a safe home, and a second chance at life. But more than that, it became proof that our protectors don't always look like what we expect. Sometimes they wear leather jackets instead of uniforms. Sometimes they ride motorcycles instead of police cars. Sometimes the person who saves your life is the same person society taught you to fear. What would have happened if Keisha had listened to those voices telling her to stay away from those people? What if she'd let prejudice win over kindness? Here's the truth. Every day you have the choice to be someone's Bobby, to help without expecting anything back, to see people for who they are, not what they look like. So here's my question for you. When was the last time you helped a stranger? When did you last choose kindness over fear? Share your story in the comments below. Hit that like button if this reminded you that good people come in all packages, and subscribe because everyone deserves to believe that kindness still matters. The world needs more Keishas, more Bobbies. More people are willing to take a chance on doing right. Be that person today.